Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Louis' Garage with the Lotus Exige S. So at the moment we're in a bit of a lockdown in New Zealand, so it's been a really good chance for me to actually do a lot more work on the Lotus. I've been ordering lots of parts online and luckily we're still getting deliveries, so I've been able to order quite a few things that I've wanted to do with the car. So today what we're doing is we are actually changing we're actually modifying the car a little bit, and we're using these engine mount inserts. So it's not brand new engine mounts, but it's going to be these inserts that go into the gaps or the holes that are in the stock engine mounts. You can see the holes are actually quite large, so the stock engine mount, there's quite a bit of movement. And the problem with that is, if there's a lot of movement on the engine, it may actually wear out your engine mount quite a bit faster. And also, when you're shifting, you'll actually notice that it doesn't actually shift into gear very quickly, and that the main reason behind that is because the whole engine and the gearbox, it actually moves when you're shifting gear. When you stop accelerating, when there's like sudden changes in acceleration, that's when the engine will move back and forth quite a bit. So that's definitely a bit of a mod that people do. So it's pretty easy to do. We just need to take out the existing engine mounts, put the inserts in, and then put the engine mounts back in. And there's two. There's a front engine mount at the front of the engine and a rear engine mount at the back of the engine, and that's basically all we have to do. So I'll show you how to do that today. Alright guys, so getting the 17mm nut off the front engine mount, that was a bit of a mission, so I ended up using this big breaker bar and my deep socket, and I was able to just crack it just by pushing it up like that, and I'm just going to use my impact wrench to get the rest of it off. Hopefully it's strong enough to get it off. It's actually pretty tight. If you have a hoist, then obviously this is going to be a lot easier, but we don't for this current project, so we'll give it a go. Cool, so we should be able to get that one out pretty easy now. Alright, so at the back here, this is again for the front engine mount. There was two bolts inside here. So this top one is pretty easy to get. You can just get your spanner up the top there and be able to get to the bolt. But then there's a bolt in here which is really difficult to get. So either you have to get like a really short socket that you can use a spanner on, or you have to use a swivel like this and then just reach it from the top. So I've got my ratchet up there and a little short extension, and then just a swivel that connects to the nut. So that's how I did it. I don't know if you guys have any better ideas, but that worked alright. These bolts are actually not super tight, so you don't have to use a lot of force to undo them. So it should be pretty easy to undo. I'm also supporting the engine as well, so that might help a little bit just to support the engine, and that might mean the bolts are a little bit easier to undo as well. And there you have it. That's the most difficult bolt out. You can go. It's a little bit rusty. I'm going to clean up all the rust and all the corrosion, make sure they're okay. It should look a lot better once I'm done. And then I just need to get this top bolt out as well. This top bolt was actually quite loose for me. It was way too loose. Looser than I expected, that's for sure. So it's probably a good thing I'm doing this engine mount insert upgrade, even if it just means that I'm checking all the bolts are tight. Oh, it's a bit tricky to get up there, eh? Oh no, it's coming. Yeah. As you can imagine, there's not a huge lot of room to work on this car, but luckily everything is reasonably accessible. I mean, if I can do it in my garage. Oops. I think I just dropped the bolt. There we go. That's the other one. Yeah, they all look a little bit corroded, so definitely going to have to make sure that they're okay before I put them back in. Sweet, and then we just have to remove this big bolt. And it should be all done. Time to get it out. So there is my front engine mount. And unfortunately, as you can see, it's a little bit worse for wear. It's even worse than I thought it was going to be. So yeah, unfortunately, it's not true that Lotuses don't require rust treatment or any rust repairs, because there's all these other bits that bolt onto the car that do rust. So yeah, check that out. That's pretty bad. So I'm going to clean this up using a wire brush. I'm going to use some rust converter, like I've done before with lots of other bits and pieces. And I'm going to spray this with Zinc black, and hopefully it'll be good as new, and hopefully it won't rust like this anymore. But yeah, it's a bit more work than I expected, but oh well. That's why we do this, right? There you go. Alright everyone, so as you can see, I've just done painting my engine mount, and it's looking a lot better. There's no more rust, and the zinc paint that I've sprayed on here will hopefully protect the engine mount for quite a few years to come. I'm just test fitting the engine mount inserts, and it looks like it goes in alright, but it does have quite a bit of pressure. If you squeeze it, it's not sitting that flush with this little spacer here in the middle. But hopefully when we install it, it should just come together and should be pretty easy to press in. The engine mount inserts also come with some lubricant that helps to lubricate the engine mounts when you install them. So just make sure you put some of that lubricant on the surface or on the face of this engine mount insert here as well. And that should make the installation process a lot easier. Alright, so from the bottom of the car, basically you just wiggle it into place. So just move it back and forth in this direction and just try and push up on it to get it into place. You can see I've put some lube around it before I push it in. And then the last bit, you may need to have a screwdriver and just to line it up properly. There we go. Just to get it in the right position so that the bolt can get through it. And it should be okay. You should be able to get the bolt through. And then we'll install the other two bolts at the top. Alright guys, bit of an update here. So I've managed to get the bottom bolt in and the top two bolts in as well. It was a little bit of a struggle. I did have to raise the engine just a little bit just to enable me to get the threads in. So you might have to just raise your engine a little bit as well. And now I'm just going to have to tighten up the bolts. So this one has got quite a high torque value. I'll look them up later and just point them out to you. And then these, there's no torque values for those. So I thought about putting thread lock in, but given the fact that they're quite hard to access, I don't think I'm going to put thread lock in. I'm just going to do them up as tight as I feel like they need to. And that should be okay. I can check them quite often anyway, so that shouldn't be a problem. And it should be good to go. Alright, so I've set up my torque wrench at 94 Newton meters or 69 foot-pounds for this bottom through bolt. And that kind of makes sense because it is quite a large bolt, and you know it is an engine mount, so it has to be pretty tight. And then the top bolt is meant to be 40 or 54 Newton meters. 40 foot-pounds or 54 Newton meters. So I'm going to do that one next, or at least try to do that one. I don't know if I can reach it, but hopefully I can. And then that should be the front engine mount installed. And then we just have to take out the rear engine mount, which is over here, right there. So we'll be doing the same thing there as well. Alright, so at the back here, I'm pretty sure that you need to remove this little heat shield, otherwise it's going to be a little bit difficult. So I've got a 5mm hex bit or Allen head, and you should be able to just remove that using the Allen head bolt. Yeah, so let's get rid of that, and then we should be able to get to the bolts. Alright, so once you've got that heat shield removed, we've got these two bolts down the bottom here, which are 16s, and I've just got my big breaker bar to loosen them up. The heat shield is actually pretty hard to remove. It's not that straightforward. I ended up taking it up through the top there, and then going towards the front, towards where the engine is. and then taking it out just through there. So yeah, not that easy actually. Okay, so I've removed the rear engine mount as well. There's quite a few more bolts than the front engine mount for this one. I guess it's probably the main one. So what I've done is there's a couple of bolts on each side here, and they're pretty easy to loosen. This one's a 13mm, this one's a 17mm at the top, and 16mm down the bottom. And then this one is just your other, similar to the other one, it's a 17mm that goes all the way through. This middle one was a little bit tricky to remove, just because it was pretty tight for space in there, and the bolt would just keep spinning when I put my impact wrench on there. So I had to counter it with my big power bar, just to get the bolt loose. And then there's a bracket here that you can take off. There's a bit of corrosion here, so I've just decided to take it off and also paint it. You don't have to take it off if there's not much corrosion, or if you don't feel like doing that. That's just a bit of an optional step. But just make sure that these bolts at the back here, the 14mm bolts, just make sure those are torqued up if you can, because they were a bit loose on my car, which is a bit of a worry actually. Right, so what we'll do is we'll clean this up and we'll paint it as well, and then we'll install the inserts on the back here as well. Alright everyone, so there you have it. I've got both the front engine mount and the rear engine mount reinstalled, and it's looking really good. So here's a little tip for you, as well as torquing it to the correct torque. You can just use some whiteout or some Tipex just to mark where the bolt is, so that if it does move around, you at least know that it's moved around. So I've just done that with some of the bolts up here, and I'm going to do the same at the back here with some of these bolts as well. And that will just give us a good indication as to whether or not the torque is correct, and whether or not we should put on some more thread lock. The other thing is, please do not forget to put on the heat shield for the engine mount, because otherwise I've seen photos online where people have basically melted the insert. So yeah, make sure you put the heat shield back on. And that's pretty much it for this mod. Hopefully the vibration shouldn't be too bad on idle and on takeoff. There's some posts online about that as well. Apparently it should get a lot better after about 100 to 200 kilometers. So even if it feels a little bit bad at first, just stick with it for a little while. If you don't like it, you can always remove them and take them out again. But you know, I think it looks like the benefits outweigh the disadvantages of this particular mod. Alright, so that's another episode for the Lotus Exige S. I'm hoping to get this car back on the road soon. There'll be a whole bunch of other mods and other things that we'll be doing to the car as well. So stay tuned for that. I'll see you soon. Alright, take care. Bye bye.